Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you're doing all right. This is just going to be a video devoted to a sort of breakdown of the course compendium. Guide you through the steps, sort of explain what goes into the portfolio and what does not, what you should worry about the most, how to design it using the criteria that I've set for you. So let's go ahead and get started here. This is the version of the portfolio that you'll find on my website. There is a version that you'll find on your Canvas or on the weekly tabs under the hyperdocs that we've been using every week. But in any case, let's get started here. As it says here, your portfolio will be a compilation of your best written work over the course of the semester. Be sure to include all of the required materials and any supplemental materials that demonstrates you've met the learning outcomes listed below. Let's go ahead and use this as a guideline for what to include. So anything that you feel meets these criteria, you'll be able to go through these in more detail. I think they're self-explanatory, but this is the most important part that I really want to go over. It's the required materials. So here you have the cover page, the epic quests, the focus meditations, the solo guild trials, additional components, and concluding remarks are the main tabs that you'll be creating for your digital portfolio. Everything else that's there in between, you simply want to link what you've already worked on throughout the semester. So as you notice here, you have brainstorming notes, proposal 1, outline 1, rough draft 1, final draft 1. That would be essay packet 1. And then for the portfolio, there will be one additional question you'll have to answer, a series of questions for each of the essays, and those are called portfolio reflections. We'll get into those in just a few moments. Let's keep going here. You'll also link your guild trials and some of the other assignments that you've done throughout the semester in the same way. And then the very last thing that is required here is the final portfolio reflection. Again, there's a specific prompt for that as well. We'll go over that. The grading criteria for the assignment is as follows. So I'll sort of give you a second to read over it. I'll just look quickly at the percentages on the left-hand side by the bullet marks. 25% goes through your thematic design. So I'm giving you points here for spending some time on Adobe Spark, making it visual, adding graphics, adding cool images. You'll see in the sample we'll go over in just a moment what I've done with mine. It's just a sample. It's incomplete at the moment, but it should sort of show you what I expect from the assignment. The 65% is devoted entirely to the quality of your written reflections that are the ones that are due for the portfolio itself. So aside from just compiling your work throughout the semester, your final for the course is actually these written reflections, one of which will address each essay, and then the final reflection at the very end, which is just a culmination of everything. And they're addressed to very specific questions. Let's just go over the last 10% here. You notice it's devoted to additional components that demonstrate the outcomes listed above. The above meaning that chart at the very top of the page here. So any of these outcomes here. And then the required portfolio reflections, these are the questions that you'll be addressing for each of the essays. So just to give you a quick example, for essay 1, after you complete brainstorming, proposal, outline, draft, peer review, and then final draft, linking all of those in the portfolio, then you'll come and answer these questions in a separate document that then you'll submit as part of your final. So the questions are really focused on reflecting on the writing that you've done already. So they'll ask you to summarize the task that was assigned, to explain your process as you were writing it. If you revised the paper, then you briefly explain what you changed and why. If you didn't, then what you would do differently now. It's not an explanation of why not, but what you would do differently now that you've sort of scanned through your work a second time as you're editing and revising to make this the best work possible. There's also a reflection for the SRP project. You may have already worked on this separately. they're the same questions that were either on the assignment, if you got to see that, and if not, just look at the questions here. You're basically reflecting on the project itself. Your experience of it was a little bit different this semester because we were all caught in this COVID-19 thing, and you weren't able to go out and explore as much as is intended for the assignment, but that's okay. In any case, answer these 3 questions, include that to the portfolio, and then this right here would be the let's say the bigger of the total reflections. It's the one that addresses the portfolio as a whole. There are 3 very specific questions there that you have to answer, and so just to reiterate, you would be doing this one right here 3 times, one for each of your major essays. I understand that you will not have essay 3 back before your portfolio is submitted, and so you can be speculative about what you think you've done well and what you may have needed to work on a bit more. Okay. A few bits of warning here, some things to avoid. One of them is a pretty major one, so I really want to spend a few minutes on this. You need to make sure that whatever files you link to your final portfolio, especially these reflections that you're writing for the portfolio itself, you need to make sure that they're accessible, that they're not set to private so that I don't have to request permission to see them when I'm grading your work. It has happened in previous semesters that students will turn in files that they forget to make accessible. I'm not able to reach them before grades have to be submitted, and so I have to issue a 0 for assignments that I can't actually review or assess. So it's a big warning. Just make sure that you go through and double check that the links are active. I'm going to show you how to do that when we go over the example for how to link your work to Adobe Spark. And at the bottom here, what's left is really just suggestions for how to turn in your work. You will be using Adobe Spark to create this thing. There are design elements that you have to include. To submit your work, as it says here at the bottom, you'll be linking it to Padlet the same way that you did with your guild challenge. And then there's specific information that needs to go into that space. Okay. So now let's take that information and go over a sample portfolio here that I've already created on Spark. You may have seen a version of this already. The point here is just to show you what I've done with it, where you could ideally be even at this point. So if you started doing the portfolio today, you can create this entire shell without needing to hyperlink anything just yet. But let's go through and see sort of what you'll have to do. So the first thing is you'll have to create the cover page, spend some time thinking about a theme. For me, the theme was stars in space, just sort of because there was a lot of cool images, something very introspective or self-reflective. In any case, add your course info, your title, and move on. This quote here serves as a transition between the title and the next parts of my portfolio. You can insert quotes like this throughout. You're encouraged to do that. That's part of what I count as graphic design components. I know you're not doing anything graphically visual, but you're adding a little bit more to your portfolio. So pick quotes that you're already a fan of or that you think speak to the assignment that you did. So for example, for essay 1, which was a narrative, if you were in my 101 class, then what type of a quote goes along with that story? If you were in 205 and you did a discourse analysis paper, then maybe it's a quote that speaks to the way language works. So pick something relevant, just like you may have done at the bottom of your title in the actual essay. So scatter those throughout. Here you'll see, moving on to the essay quest packets, that I've already staggered here my 1, 2, and 3 essays. This page here sort of serves as an index. To add one of those pages, all you'd simply have to do is do this little plus sign, go to split layout, and you'll get this layout, and then add text for the individual essays. Let's keep going here. Another epigraph quote. You see how I've added some images that sort of play on this theme. It's just to make it look nice, but once we get to the actual reflections here that I'm going to use as the sample for linking your work, then you're going to have to decide how you're going to link it all, what's your style that you prefer. There's really only two ways. Let's just scan through the rest of the portfolio really quickly. So you'll see that this is one of the ways that you can do your work. The other one is going to appear just right below. This is another way that you can do your work, sort of hyperlinking it there. We would continue on to the other sections of the assignment. Here I've added images for the SRP. I would hyperlink it here much the same way. Keep going, move through quest logs, additional components. This is the section in the portfolio where you will be submitting your any of the quest log entries that you maintained, any additional bits of writing that you have that you want to submit. Maybe it's those short responses we would do at the beginning of class. Maybe it's just creative writing that you have developed based on something we talked about, or just anything at all that you developed through the semester that you feel deserves to be in this portfolio, meant to showcase your writing and your creativity and your academic prowess. So let's just keep going here through to the end. The closing remarks is just where I'm going to link the final compendium, but that would basically be the portfolio in a nutshell. You can get to this point right away just by adding the tabs that you need to add. I sort of wanted to start at this point to show you how to hyperlink, so let's go ahead and look at the two samples here. So these I already hyperlinked using a fake link. You have to have the link already active in your Google folder if you're going to hyperlink. So I've already copied one over. If you wanted to add your information this way as buttons, then to do so you simply click the little button tab here, and where it says button, you then type whatever you want to name the file. So let's say that I was now working on essay 2 and I wanted to do proposal 2. Like I said, you have to have the hyperlink here already or it won't work. So let's actually, sorry, that was a mistake here on my part. Let me grab a hyperlink that I can use really quickly, and then we'll continue. So one sec here. Okay. Okay, so I grabbed the hyperlink, just went to my Google folder. Let's go ahead and paste that now. And you'll see that when I hit save, there's the button, appears right there. You really only have one other choice at that point. You can move the button to the middle if you want, or then you can move it over to the left. Those are just minor design elements that you could use. Design it however you would like. Do as much or as little of this adding of quotes and making it look a certain way as you'd like. The other thing to show you here is if you wanted to hyperlink this way, then it'll work much the same way. You simply wouldn't add a button. You would add text. Then with text, you have a few options. So you can do really big text, like epic quest number 2, right? But you can't actually hyperlink text this big. See, the link doesn't activate. If you wanted to change this to a little bit smaller, you would simply do H2. Even that doesn't hyperlink though. Quotable stuff is like what I did up here. It appears as you scroll, also not hyperlinkable. If you do bullets, either numbered or dotted, those will hyperlink. So I would simply highlight the thing that I'm gonna hyperlink, go ahead and paste the link, save, and there it is. That is ready to go. And that's really it for the portfolio. As long as you've been keeping track of your assignments throughout, as long as you don't have to look for files all over the place. That's all that you need to include in it. Let me go ahead and show you in just one quick second how to make your files not be private. So I'm actually going to go here on my Google Drive. I have a file that I created earlier that I left private as a lot of files are when you first make them, so that you could see how to change it live here, and then do this with your work for the portfolio. So, okay, let's go with this file right here. Okay, so this is the portfolio reflection question that I showed you earlier. I just want to show you here that if you click share, then because this document hasn't been set to active, it's still private, nobody would be able to see it. So let me show you what you have to do to fix that. See, here it says, currently the link is restricted. Only people added can open this link. That means that you would have to take my email, add me as a contributor or viewer, and then I'd be able to see it. But that simply won't work, especially, like I said, if I can't reach you to get those files. You can't add my 001 SDCCD email in any case. So just click this button right here. At the very least, now I know that I can see the portfolio. You don't have to make me an editor. A viewer is perfectly fine. And then that's basically it. You're done.